Well, if you've just joined us, a happy Women's Day to you. Now, as the country marks Women's Day today, the treatment of women when reporting cases at police stations has once again been brought to the fore. And this, as author and columnist Ndumiso Ngcobo recently revealed on his social media pages how he witnessed a lady being forced to report what is believed to be a gender-based violence case in full view of other members of the public at the Johannesburg Police Station. Now, it's reported that at some point of giving her statement, the lady was asked by the police official to please speak loudly because he couldn't hear her. So for this discussion, we are now joined by Ndumiso Ngcobo, as well as Tamara Mathebula, who is the chairperson of the Commission for Gender Equality. And Tamara and Ndumiso, thank you so much for your time. Welcome to Morning Live.
Morning, Sakina.
Morning,
morning
Sakina,
to the viewers.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Ndumiso, let me start with you. Because you, of course, witnessed this particular situation that I was trying to relate to our viewers. So at a police station in Gauteng, doing other things, of course, when you found yourself witnessing this situation as it unfolded. Please tell us more about it, exactly how it happened, without necessarily revealing any sensitive information.
Yeah, no, because I got a bit worried. Morning again, Sakina. I got a bit worried when you called it the Johannesburg station, because I'm uncomfortable saying exactly where it is, just for her own privacy. But it's just, I mean, if I can just put you in the picture. So you walk into a police station. So you're talking about a room that is rectangular, very small, maybe 6 meters by 2-3 meters at a stretch, with something in the order of about 7 people in there. The first thing you do when you walk into this particular station is there's a cubicle right at the beginning, at the entrance, and it says GBV cases reported here. And I remember walking in and thinking, well, this is strange. I mean, it just made me uncomfortable. And the only seat I had available to me to wait was right next to this particular cubicle. Although I'm pretty certain that even someone who would have been at least a good 3-4 meters could actually overhear this particular conversation. But I mean, I remember thinking that the levels of discomfort I was feeling as this woman sat down, and I'm trying to look very, as much away so as not to hear it, and I actually had my earpods on. I still could not, because my attention had been drawn to it, purely because it is all these pieces of paper, these A4 pieces of paper, emblazoned with the words "report GBV cases here," and I sat there cringing, because I was trying very hard not to listen to this, but I couldn't help overhear the officer saying, "CC, you are speaking way too softly. Try and speak louder." And I thought, and on further thinking about it, because at some point I had to go to the through one of the doors into the building, and I was seeing all these empty rooms in there, and I'm thinking, well, can't one of these rooms be used for all of this? But then I started thinking to myself, there's also so many other considerations to take into your mind when you think about it, because where is it more comfortable for a woman? And so for me, my post was really just musing about just the imagination that is required to be able to actually get this right. And so I'm just saying that in terms of her privacy, I do not believe that the woman in question had any privacy, as she was busy relating her story. And that was my sense of discomfort, yeah.
And my next question, Ndumiso, and I know this is, of course, wholly subjective, but what was your sense of the woman's demeanor? And also, when she was repeatedly asked to speak louder, what sense did you get of the police officer? Were they sensitive to the matter they were dealing with and the person that they were dealing with? What sort of sense did you get?
You know what? I mean, I would be grossly unfair to the officer if I said that I picked up any sense of insensitivity on his part. I didn't even get to look at his face because I was trying so hard not to, pay attention to this particular conversation. What concerned me really was just the special part of it, just the utilization of space. Because I mean, if the officer couldn't hear the woman, then maybe he couldn't hear her. But I was just worried that just based on where they were and the fact that that cubicle was there meant that that is always likely to happen because there's other people speaking in the room as well. And so I'd be grossly unfair to the officer if I said I thought he sounded insensitive. It just the entire situation and just the placement of that particular cubicle, I just thought, good Lord, I mean, in terms of imagination. And she was trying so hard to huddle and go forward, just so, none of us could hear what she was busy talking about.
Tamara, one of our producers coincidentally also went to a police station in the north of Johannesburg and witnessed the very same big, bold GBV cases reported here, A4 piece of paper in one of these cubicles, and was also alarmed by it. Do you believe that there could be more sensitive and discreet ways of welcoming GBV victims into our police stations?
Sakina, first and foremost, I want to say that the allegations as purported by Mr. Ngcobo's report, are viewed by the Commission for Gender Equality as, absurd and very appalling. The Commission, as you know, has over the years been very instrumental in ensuring that there is a lasting solution that is found in addressing secondary victimization. I really believe that secondary victimization for me really objectify, demean, and degrade women, not to mention victims of gender-based violence. And basically, I also really believe that, we can find, lasting solutions because you will know and understand that if one is subjected to such kind of situation where you have to report and speak loud and ask to speak loud, that is very inappropriate, Sakina. And I think also the response and the action is very unsympathetic. It's really about disbelieving a person who is coming to report. And really, it's a pity that a lot of gender-based violence victims or victims of domestic violence, go to the police stations trusting and knowing that, they are in safe hands. And this is where they actually experience, secondary victimization in the hands of law enforcement, officers. And I must say that, Sakina, what we have in South Africa basically legislations or conducive environment in as so far as our legislations are concerned. We have the Constitution, and if you look at Chapter 9, as well as the Bill of Rights in Chapter 2, which really guarantees that everyone should have, we are all equal before the law. But at the same time, I think when you look at the treatment and the dignity of people or persons that are supposed to be reporting to us gender-based violence are actually subjected to another victimization after they have been, all their rights been violated. So I must say that we have legislations, we have laws, we have policies to actually prevent gender-based violence and secondary victimization in the country. But the situation currently is really appalling. And as the Commission, we have been monitoring, what is happening in the police stations. In 2016, we released a report that says, fighting fire without fire. And recently we have been monitoring the police stations, and we've been looking at the situation that Mr. Ngcobo is actually describing in terms of making sure that there are specialized, officers, South African police officers that are able to handle cases of gender-based violence in a manner that is acceptable. And these officers should actually be subjected to a good training, not only training, but also follow their own SABC a framework which clearly indicates, how they should, deal with cases. But we also looked at the victim-friendly rooms in those police stations, because this is where you can actually take a victim or a survivor of gender-based violence and not deal with the person in front of everybody else in the, in the charge office. But you can actually take the person away, and you will be able to interview the person in a victim-friendly rooms. And our findings, Sakina, basically are saying that those victim-friendly rooms are not properly utilized. And if they are not properly utilized, some of them are not properly equipped with specialized trained officials, but also in some police stations, the rooms are not even, they don't exist.
But Tamara, to be fair, those type of interventions have been called for previously. There have been numerous requests for those types of intervention. So what is your organization going to do with this information that has just been revealed to you? Because that secondary victimization seems to continue unabated.
Absolutely, Sakina. I think with this information that we have at hand currently actually forces us to go back. You will understand that currently in the previous financial year and this current financial year, we are continuing to monitor police stations and Tutuzela care centers in addressing gender-based violence cases. And the findings that we currently have and the report that we launched in July actually shows us that, there is lack of capacity, inability to address issues in a sensible way where people are treated with respect. And again, we will continue this financial year 2022-2023 to monitor SABC just to make sure that there is establishment of adequate processes and procedures guided by our laws that I have mentioned, like our Constitution, our Domestic Violence Act, our Sexual Offences Act, and these structures that should actually be trained to respect the dignity of persons and to really look at the psychological integrity of victims of gender-based violence. We will not stop there, Sakina. We will also look at how we can enhance the access to justice by victims by fostering the role of the victim support services in police stations. But we will also encourage the South African Police Service to really look at their curriculum and look at how the police, in fact, all of them should actually be trained to handle victims of gender-based violence in police stations. You will find that in police stations, there are very few officers that are trained to handle, and some of these police that are trained, you will find that if they are not on duty, any other police who is not trained is allowed to handle and deal with victims of gender-based violence. So we want
Tamara,
and we demand and we really request that everyone should be trained to handle victims of gender-based violence in our police stations.
Indeed, and we're into news time and it feels like we're saying the same things over and over. At what point do we actually move into meaningful action in Ndumiso Ngcobo? We're into news time.
Hi, Sakina.
I was just saying, Ndumiso, from your side, how do we move past this? Keep saying the same things over and over. What needs to be done?
What my sense of it, as I thought about it, it really did feel to me, Tamara, that as you guys go around and you are talking about all these interventions, is that there's also a bit of a problem of imagination, because if I were in charge in that particular station and I decided that that was the cubicle, I mean, you might actually want to almost subject yourself to that particular experience yourself. Walk in through that door and try and imagine yourself sitting at that door. So for me, it sounds like this is one of those things that there's a directive that came from elsewhere where someone said, you need to have this. And it is very much a tick box exercise to say, well, let's just have a space where we say we've dedicated it to GBV reporting, but to actually just put it there in front of everyone who's there to just come and certify their matric certificate and what have you, just seemed to be extremely callous. And so I agree with you. I think that there's a whole lot more training that actually needs to take place right at the coalface where the police stations are.
Well, thanks so much to both of you this morning for highlighting this very important subject. Tamara Mathebula as Chairperson of the Commission for Gender Equality, and Ndumiso Ngcobo as a renowned author and columnist.